The day is finally here, my friends. It is time to harvest the potatoes that I planted almost 4 months ago. And I know, I'm rocking a new look, but I have a story to tell you about this. Back in the day, 5 years ago maybe, when I was still learning how to make YouTube videos for you guys, I thought I needed like a thing. I needed like a little secret, a little hook to get you to watch. And so I got these green sunglasses and I would come into every single video like this. And I would literally make that sound. So when Jacques came on the team and was digging through old videos, he found the era of the green sunglasses. It was like 7 or 8 videos. And he just started busting up laughing so hard that I'm doing this for him. I'm busting out the green sunglasses. So we're gonna be harvesting some potatoes today. That's the main thing. But before we do it, I wanted to show you some really cool things that are going on this season in the garden, because I have to say, the front yard garden has never looked better. And I know I say it every year, but every year we progress as gardeners. So I'm very happy that it's looking this good. Just look at this corn, for example. It's planted pretty densely, but it has been thinned. So every single plant you'll notice is about 8 to 10 inches apart. So there's no double plantings right next to one another, but look how lush this is. This is in our 8x4 large short birdies bed, and it is probably about 5+ feet. We're only now starting to see maybe a little bit of tasseling. What's nice about getting it to this point, because most of the time when I've grown corn, or even Jacques has grown corn, you run into this issue where if you don't time it perfectly, it'll start to grow, but it'll start to tassel or form the male part of the plant up at the top that blows the pollen down onto the silks, which are where the ears of corn are, which is how the corn is pollinated, how all those kernels are formed. It'll do that too early when the plant is too short. And so I think the timing is the most important part to growing corn, provided you're giving it a bunch of nitrogen early on in its life. Of course, it's in a raised bed. We fertilize it probably once every 2 weeks or so. But the taller it gets before it tassels, of course, the more energy is on that plant, perhaps even the more ears of corn you'll get. Check that out right there. That is the end of a Lumina pumpkin that starts right about here and goes all the way over here. Every day, actually, wow, this thing has grown like over a foot since yesterday. Look at this. This is crazy. If you're not aware, the Lumina pumpkin, it's one we sell at Botanical Interests, but it is a white pumpkin. So you can start to see the white pumpkin forming right there. There's about 4 of them, but to me, this is how you grow a pumpkin in a raised bed. You plant it and then you let it sprawl and break all the edges of the bed so that it makes the garden look very natural. Here in the backyard now at the squash wasteland, it's been a crazy squash summer, probably my most prolific squash summer yet, and that's not even a good thing. I think I have too much squash. We've donated squash twice to the local organization around here that takes fresh food from us, but it's that time of day, which is basically every day, when you get to summertime, where you gotta keep pruning your squash leaves off. So here's the patch. I will come in maybe once every other day and take off any leaves that look like this, that have that powdery mildew. There's nothing you can really do that's a foolproof way to prevent it. So for me, just grabbing a knife and chopping and just taking the squash that I have off is fine. What I will say about squash though, is if you want to prevent powdery mildew and see your squash better and save space, we tested this out. There'll be a video on the Main Epic Gardening channel about it, but I think this is a really fun way to grow squash. It's certainly my favorite way right now to grow squash. So all you need is a stake of some kind. We put electrical conduit on here, but you can use bamboo. You can see it kind of looks like kale as it comes up because you're pruning off all these lower leaves, and you let these ones go until they start to die off. You remove those and you can see there's a ton of little squash here. I think we've harvested about 12 squash off of this one plant, and it keeps that in a much more compact space if you are a smaller space grower. One more thing I wanted to show you. Take a look at this. This is our greenhouse. We've got some twine going up it, and what is that growing? It is growing some Cascade hops. Look at this, whirling right around. This thing's growing so fast. So there's hops here, there, and there. The whole idea with hops is they grow what are called bines, B-I-N-E-S, not vines, which to me, I get it, it's a botanical differentiation, but it's a little pretentious. Let's just call them vines, that's how they look. Anyways, they'll grow about 20+ feet tall, so that's why you got to trellis them up something like this. I figured why not throw them up the south-facing side of the BC greenhouse, because that'll provide the greenhouse itself with a bit of shade as these hop vines grow up. but we'll see if we can get some hops. I don't know, maybe our friends at Sierra Nevada want to come down and do a little epic beer brewing session. It's been a long time since I've brewed or even really drank beer regularly, but I would do it just for you guys. Okay, you remember, this is where I planted all my potatoes. It looks like hot garbage right now because that's what it's supposed to look like. In fact, my friend Potato Tyler Heppel, he lives up in Canada and he runs one of the biggest potato farms up in Canada. We had him on our The Beat podcast, which is a video podcast now. So you can go check out our video podcast channel. It's a new channel that we've launched. But anyways, he was on the show and I was like, hey, how do you actually harvest potatoes? Because they need to store them for the long term, right? I mean, they're commercial potato producers. And so he said the best way to harvest potatoes for longevity is to harvest them 2 weeks after all of the top growth dies. Now, I'm not quite at that point, but this is by far the longest I've ever waited. And I want to see these potatoes in the raw. So we're going to say goodbye to the green sunglasses for now. Let's harvest each variety and see what we get. So when you're harvesting, you want to find the source. Where did you actually plant that seed potato, which is going to be right about here. Then you can use a fork or a shovel. I use a shovel in this case. I'm going to come off the planting point by at least 10 to 12 inches. And I'm going to come in at a 45-degree angle and try to underscoop the entire growth cluster of where those potatoes are. These are our Sarpo Mira potatoes that we grew last year. Some of the best tasting ones you'll ever have. A lot of good worm life in this soil too. I'm very pleased about that. I have to say, every year the soil just keeps getting better. This is my first Yukon Gold harvest of the season. Small, but I'll take it. It's the first time I've ever seriously tried to grow a blue potato. This is the Adirondack Blue. And it's a decent yield. So here's the harvest. I have to say, I am a little bit disappointed, and I'm gonna tell you what I think happened. It's not a bad harvest by any means, but the potatoes are a little bit wonky. There's bites taken out of them, and they're not quite at the size I would like. So the first problem we ran into this year was gophers. We had a big gopher problem. You can tell there's a bunch of bite marks on some of these potatoes. And I can probably cut around that. I'm not super concerned, but that hampered their growth because they also ate the roots. To help combat the gophers, we've been testing out these sonic little alarms or preventers, and we put them in this patch, but I found a couple gopher holes. I found one right there, and right there. So they were just munching on this crop the entire time it was growing. What I'll do now is just let those potatoes dry a bit, cure, and let that skin harden. See if I can salvage as many of them as I can. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's probably still 30 plus pounds of potatoes, but all hope is not lost because in the test garden, we are testing 7 different growing methods for potatoes. That's what this wasteland is right here. We've got the grow bags, we've got the bucket, we got 5 different in-ground methods. So hopefully this works out better. And even if it doesn't, I'll know an even better way to grow potatoes next year. Thanks for watching, guys. Stay tuned, good luck in the garden, and keep on growing.